Hello, welcome to this video series on Python data structure. Python being a versatile and widely used programming languages, there are some important various types of data structures that allows handling of data more efficiently. And in this series of videos, we'll be looking at those data structures and how to create them, how to extract some their factors or inputs or the data from those different types of data structures we would consider here. So let's leave the story part of this and dive into the practice. Once you have access to the Jupyter Notebook, please go through this introduction, why data structures matter, and here is just the overview. So in this video, we'll look at these five types of different data structures, which include lists, tuples, sets, dictionaries, and strings. When we say lists are ordered, mutable collections of items. They are highly flexible and allow for dynamic modification, making them suitable for a wide range of applications. When we say lists are mutable, it means that the values or the entries of a list can be changed, right? So when I create a list, I can change the entries at different positions. That's what mutability means. Now let's look at tuples. Don't worry, we would of course look at lists and some examples of lists, and I would explain what more with practical examples, the idea of mutable or mutability of list. Tuples, these are ordered immutable collections of items, which means that the elements in tuples cannot be changed, right? Tuples are used when you need a fixed set of values. Just like I said, they cannot be changed, so they have to be fixed, and want to ensure that the data cannot be altered. All right, so that is immutability. For immutability data structure such as tuples, you can't alter the entry or the values in it in tuples. The next data structure are sets. Sets are unordered collections. So take note of lists and tuples, they are ordered collections. But sets are unordered collections of unique items. Alright, sets are ideal for membership testing and eliminating duplicate values. The sets in Python programming is very similar to the sets in mathematics. When we begin looking at the examples and practical application of sets, we would also perform some mathematical operations such as set intersection, set union, set difference. Then you appreciate some of those math concepts you've learned from your elementary school. The next data structures are dictionaries. Dictionaries are also unordered collections of key value pairs. Very important data structure. Dictionaries are powerful tools for associating key values with specific values and allow for quick data retrieval. Again, we'll look at some practical applications of dictionaries. And finally, strings, which is part of the data structures we've looked at in the first week of this training. Strings are immutable sequence of characters. Strings are used for handling and manipulating textual data. So here are the learning objectives, and just to we'll learn how to, by the end of the entire series of this video, you should know how to use Python basic structures, apply data structures to Python basic Python data structures. All right, that's the first learning objectives. You should also know how to apply data structures to solve problems and implement and optimize data structures in code. Let's begin by looking at lists. So list is the first data structures we'll be considering in this video. So just like we said, lists are one of the most versatile data structures in Python. They are ordered, mutable, which is changeable, and allow for duplicate elements. The basic syntax of list is given by, so here's a basic syntax. I call this my list. So my underscore list equal to item 1, item 2, item 3 with commas. Now you begin the list. Lists are enclosed within square brackets. Please take note. Most of those data structures that have been defined above, the way to identify or create them is by the type of bracket you use. So once Python sees square brackets like this, Python knows that, oh, what you're trying to create is a list. Yeah. Now you itemize the elements or items of the list and then separate each item with a comma. So here's the basic syntax. This is the first example I'd like us to look at. Example 1. It says create. Here we are trying to creating and accessing list. We want to create a list and access the list. All right, so here you would see that this list has been created. I called this list the list of fruits. So fruits equal to, we have apple. Because this is a list of strings, I have to wrap each word in double quotes or single quotes. So apple is the first item in the list, comma. Banana is the second item in the list with a comma, and cherry. So again, whenever you are creating list of strings, please ensure that you enclose them within these double quotes. Okay, it's very important. There are 3 items in this list. Now let's access the elements in the list. To access the elements in the list, I can call the first. So here, this is me just giving variable name to the first element in the list. So I say first fruit equals 0. Now this brings us to the idea of indexing. Okay, in Python, we begin our indexing is just stating the position of the elements in a particular data structure. So in the lists and other data structures, the indexing, the positioning of the elements begins from 0, which means the first element in this list is positioned at index 0. The second element is positioned at index 1. The third element is positioned at index 2. So to access the first element in the list, you need to access it by calling the name of the list fruits with the index of the elements 0 and enclosed within the bracket. So you just have the name of the list and with a square bracket 0 in it. So once I print this, you would see the output. It gives apple. Okay, now let's run other examples. Okay, first of all, since we've created a list, let's even see how Python will return the output of fruits. So when I call this the name of my list fruits, Python gives me the output, the list with apple, banana, and cherry. That is a collection of the strings of these fruits. Okay, just like I said again, if we want to access the second element in the list called banana, all I need to do is call the name of the list fruits with a square bracket, and then you put in 1. Once you run this, it gives you banana, because banana is the element that's positioned at index 1. Okay, we've just seen here that apple is the element positioned at index 0. For me to retrieve the third element, which is at index 2, you do the same thing. You call, oh, sorry about this. You do the same thing and call the fruits, call the title of the list or the name of the list with a square bracket, and then you put a 2 in this square bracket. So once I say fruit of 2 in a square bracket, please take note of the syntax, very important. When you use curve bracket instead of square bracket, this will return error. So you can see it's running, and now it's returning an error. It says list object is not callable. So this is like I'm trying to call the list object. So that is a type error. So instead of having curve bracket, I should use the square bracket. Please take note of this, very important. You don't mix those things up. So I've already dropped a little notes. Say fruits is a list containing 3 elements. Yeah, lists are 0 indexed. So fruits of 0 accesses the first elements, just like what I've explained right here or initially. So this is how to work with lists and how to access the elements of a list. Now let's look at how to modify a list. How do we modify a list? So modifying list is another very crucial and important topic we will be looking at regarding or concerning list. So what do we mean modifying the elements? Here I want to position the the fruit blueberry at index 1 and print the modified list, okay, as fruits. So once we run this cell, you notice that we have changed the elements at index 1, which was initially banana, to blueberry by using this syntax. So this syntax says, hey, Python, go into the list called fruits at the first at index 1, not the first index, because the first index will be index 0. So at index 1, whatever you see there, replace it with this particular string called blueberry. And Python did exactly that. It went into the fruits list and took out banana and replaced banana with blueberry. All right, so that is how to, modify your list. So if you're working with any list and you want to change a particular entry, you need to know the position or the index of that particular entry to be able to, change the entry. Okay, so like I said the second element in the list is changed from banana to blueberry. Now, how do we add? So what if I do not want to change, but I want to add? Then we have a method called append, appending and removing elements. So we can append, which means you can add an element instead of taking out banana and replacing it with blueberry. I can add blueberry to the last element of the list by using the append method. All right, so as you can see, we are appending an element. We want to add another fruit called orange and into the list. So what we do is we say fruits.append orange in curve bracket. So see, now this is a curved bracket, not square bracket. This is something that you have to work with and practice with multiple times for you to get familiarize yourself with the syntax of Python. There are places you use the square bracket. This is to access the elements in the list and to modify the elements in the list. And but to append, to add elements in the list, you use the append method. So this is called method, and you put the orange in the bracket or whatever string or number you want to append to the list. All right, so we will print this after appending the fruit orange. And then if we want to remove, so I think we should run these cells separately so that I can see the effect of adding that and then removing the other. So I'm going to create a new cell for the second line of code, and let's run this first one. When you run the first one, it says after appending, we have apple, blueberry, cherry, and orange. Okay, if we want to take out apple from the list, we use the remove method. It says fruits.remove apple, the same syntax, the same way we use the curve bracket for the appending method. Okay, and when you run this, you notice that after removing apple, the list becomes the list with just three what's it called, fruits: blueberry, cherry and app and orange. So here, the append adds an element to the end of the list and then deletes the remove deletes the first occurrence of the specified value. So that is how to add and remove elements from a list. So far so good. We've talked about how to access the elements in the list, how to create a list, how to access elements, how to add and how to remove elements. Now let's look at slicing list. Very important method or very important, stuff to do with list. So slicing list. Now we slice list by the index. Okay, here we want to slice the list from the second element in the list to the third element. All right, so here when I run this code, you see what happens to the list. Now remember that our list had we've reduced our list to blueberry, cherry, and orange. When you slice 1 to 3, it goes from the second element, which is the element at index 1, to the element at index n minus 1, that is 3 minus 1. That is the second element. So it doesn't include the element at index 3. 0, 1, 2. You see, this is 0, element at index 0, element at index 1, cherry, and element at index 2, orange. So whenever you want to view elements from, let me just give you, let me write this above. So if you want to slice elements from slicing element, let me write that. I'll use markdown to do this. So slicing elements, elements from, say, from 1 to n, we use the slicing. We do that this way. So what you need to do is you're going to slice. Sorry, I'm trying to just put in some code here. We are going to slice. Let's say the name of the list, the name of what you're slicing is called slice, or let's call it my list. What you want to slice is my list. So you slice my list from 1 to, so full column means 2, from 1 to n plus 1. So although what you're slicing is actually what you're slicing is actually from 1 to n. Okay, what you intend to slice is from 1 to n, but you have to put your instruction, or put the range of what you're about to slice from 1 to n plus 1, just like we've seen here. We want to slice just from the element at the index 1 to element at the second element. But what we had to do, or what we did here, was to put 1 plus n plus 1. The second element is the element at index 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. So it's not going to include the element at index 3. I hope that explanation is clear enough. So please take note of this slicing method in Python. That is how to slice. So the list slicing returns a new list containing elements from index 1 to 2, right? Index 1 to 2, although we specified index 1 to 3. All right, so take note of that. That is very important. Now, how do we iterate over lists? How do you run through over lists? So although we're using the iteration loop function, loop statement here, the for loop. Don't worry, we have a video that explains the for loop, but let's just do this example to explain how to iterate over lists. Remember that we've reduced our list to, we've sliced, okay, this is called the sliced list. Our list is still having how many elements? The last modification of the list we had, it's having 3 elements: blueberry, cherry, and orange. If you want to iterating means going through the list and looping through the list and popping out the elements of the list. Here's the simple line of code to iterate over a list. We have for fruit in fruits. Don't forget that the name of the list is called fruits. Let's call our list fruits. So fruits, we have blueberry, cherry, and orange. Now for fruit in fruits, so for each fruit here in fruits, print fruits. Okay, with this line, I would iterate through the list, and you can see what happens, right? It's Python will go into the list and get the first element, print it out, then goes back into the list, get the second element, cherry, prints it out, go back into the list and get the third element, and then print it out. So this is the for loop statement, and that is how to iterate over a list. This is one method of iterating over a list. There are several methods of actually doing that. All right, so we've seen how to work with lists. You've seen examples of different ways of creating lists and all of those. If you want to create lists, you can either, let me just add one or two more things talk about lists here before we end this video on lists, and then go to tuple. You can either create lists. Let me call it my list 1. I can create a list by just having square brackets, right? My list 2, I can also create a list. My list 2, I can also create a list by converting any other from one data structure to another. I can just call it list of. So there's a keyword called list. Say list of let me say list of the word string, or list of the words list. So I have list inside the string. I've created a list. I can create a list of, say, L, comma, I, comma, S, comma, and T, right? So I have a list of these letters, L-I-S-T. And the second way I'm going to create a list is calling the list keyword of list. So when I run this cell, I have run the cell. Let's display what we have in my list 1. What we have in my list 1 is the list of the letters list. And let's also display what we have in list 2. My list, let's see what we have in list 2. My list 2, we have, can you see, list of list. So the same list was created using different method, but we have the same output. The first one, I had to go in myself with the square bracket and put in the letters list with separate with commas. But the second way I created the list is to use the keyword list with the word list just all in one the single double quote. Now Python went ahead to create the list for me, which means that my list 1 and my list 2 are the same. They are the same thing, but they are being created using different method. I can actually confirm if they are the same. So I'll ask Python, my list one, is it equal to my list two, right? So this is me comparing both lists, and Python says true, that these two things are equal. So we're creating lists, one list using two different methods. Now there are also other methods of lists. So when I say method now, I don't mean method of creating list. There are some other method of lists. Let's look at how do you see other method, or yeah, the method that you can actually perform with lists. So once you called a list, any list that you create, call a list, put a dot and press your tab key, it gives you the list of methods. So you can append, you can clear. We've only seen append, we've seen remove, right? So there are many more methods: append, clear, copy, count, extend, index, insert, pop, remove, reverse, and then we also have sort. So these are different methods that can be applied to any list that you're working with, right? So let's say I want to do the count method for my list one. Count, I have my list one dot count, and then when you run this, okay, takes only one argument, 0. So 0 is given. So my list one dot count, I want to count how many L do I have in my list one. So that is how to use the count method. How many, if you want to know the number of occurrences of a particular letter in your list, this is how to count it. If I come over here and add another L to this list and then run this list, when I come over to this count of L, it gives me the number of L's I have in my list one. Do you see that? That's how to use the count method. Count number of occurrences of the elements in the list. So you can go ahead and try out how to just explore each of these methods of the list: clear, copy. Check out how to use the clear method, how to use the copy. So I would quickly show you. So suppose you want to use the clear method, but you don't know how to do that. Once you open it and you put your curve bracket, press shift and tab on your key. Once you press shift and tab on your keyboard, it pops up how to use this. All right. So to see more, press the plus sign, and then it gives you, okay, that it doesn't have more doc string. This is called doc string. You can see it's a doc string. So it tells you that this is a signature. My list one dot clear removes all items from list. That is what it does. It's remove all items from list. So once I do my list one dot clear and then I run this particular cell, if I should call my list one, I don't expect to see any item again in my list one. Can you see it's now empty? All right, so that's how to check out how each method works. So this is all about lists in this video. In the next video, we'll talk about tuple. Please ensure that you practice this and see how each of those codes are working. Thank you for watching this, and thank you for choosing DataFight Academy. Would always bring value to your learning experience. All right, see you in the next video where we're talking about tuple. Bye bye.